Right, for more on this, now we are joined by Moeng, who is a brand strategist, to get a sense of whether brand South Africa can indeed gain some good ground from this partnership. Soli, good evening, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. So, first and foremost, my thinking starts from this point of view, that obviously brand South Africa, as far as tourism is concerned, has been suffering a great deal. This is why South African tourism is thinking about this idea of aggregating international visitors to come into the country, 616 million of them, possibly converting a percentage of that could come into the country. Why is South African tourism going through a bad patch?
Well, because South Africa is going through a bad patch, you know. There's a lot of pain in South Africa post-COVID. All the corruption that's been happening, including state capture, other forms of corruption, the water shortages now that are being driven by the electricity crisis. So livelihoods have been destroyed in South Africa. People are in pain, and suddenly you hear of a government department as if it acts in a silo. It's not in a silo. It must work with other people. The government must work in a cohesive way to say, in these times, what do we do for South Africa? And now to say that we're doing it because Rwanda is doing it is nonsense. I mean, we haven't even seen the figures. What were the arrival figures in Rwanda before, and what were the arrival figures after, as a result of this specific campaign? To quote 600 million or 800 billion rand is nonsense. I'm sorry. Is also advertising very equivalent, or is it in the number of the actual tourism spend that they're expecting to come to South Africa? How do they unpack all that stuff? Look, in normal times, normal economic times, when everything is running properly, it would make sense to consider a deal such as this. But you don't do it because other people are doing it. You've got to be able to justify. South Africa is in a lot of pain, and the industry is suffering. There's no doubt about it. But you need to put money into projects that will really specifically attract people into South Africa. Advertising, looking good on soccer match, on soccer t-shirts and stuff like that. I don't know if it's going to, everybody who's going to see that is going to come to South Africa, especially because of the negative image. Is
the conversion rate a guaranteed thing? Is it an automatic thing? So it's a gamble. You cannot throw the guys and hope.
Of course, they're playing the lotto. The thing is, tourism doesn't stand on its own. The negative image that South Africa is generating currently about itself overseas, safety, attacks and all stuff like that, is hurting the country. We need to also please South Africans. The thing is, when South Africans themselves, and I've been following this discussion throughout the day, most South Africans who are responding to this and say, no, we need that money here. I totally understand the passionate acting CEO at SA Tourism saying, but we're not responsible for sports financing, we're not responsible for this and that, well, this is what we're doing. But the thing is, the timing is wrong. The tourism industry department doesn't act in isolation of the entire government that has lost a lot of credibility in South Africa. It's not an icon on its own. So they have to work and listen to the pain and to the sufferings of the people of South Africa. They can't just go on with arrogance to say, we're going to do it whether you like it or not. You don't understand what we're doing. I mean, it's nonsense. It's a bad arrogance on their part.
Well, they're saying it's done anyway. I mean, of course, it's not an excuse to say, well, we are spending and we have been spending on international markets anyway, so that means we must continue to do it. Maybe, of course, it's also time to sit back and look at what have we been spending, and have we been getting a return on that spend that we have been spending on international markets?
Exactly. We need to do that. Look, I admire the work generally I do admire the work done by the SA Tourism. There's no doubt about it. I support it. I think it needs to be supported. But I think in terms of timing for this particular deal, I don't see. I've tried to turn this thing over and over again in my head. It doesn't make sense to me in these times. And all these billions they're throwing at us are nonsense, because they need to unpack them. How it's a gamble, as you say. How do they justify that? People throw you to say, we're going to give you you spend so much money, we're going to give you so the same money multiplied several times in terms of advertising value. But that's not you want to see people coming here. You want to see serious conversion of people. And the UK is anyway one of South Africa's, if not the top of South Africa's source market for tourism. Maybe we should target another market with this sort of thing where we want to create. South Africa is known. There are lots and lots of South Africans in the UK. Maybe we should target China because everybody's talking about China or India, where we need to grow the visibility, the brand visibility of Destination South Africa. Not in a market where people know about us anyway.
So somebody was saying exactly what you're saying now, that we don't have an awareness problem in the UK.
We don't.
People probably do know about South Africa, but we have an image problem. It's what they know about South Africa that is a problem.
Yeah,
I don't know if we put Visit South Africa on a soccer T-shirt would change that perception.
No, it's not. You know, if people who listen to the gentleman from, what's his name, Richard Quest, in an interview with Bruce Whitfield a number of years ago at the World Communication Forum, World Economic Forum rather, in Davos, and he was saying, you guys come here and say we are open for business. What? You're not open for business. Your state institutions have been taken over by criminals. None of them has been arrested. Corruption. Your economic policies are not clear. Where are you taking this country to? You know, so we have a lot of work to do to make South Africa attractive, not the sugar coating. I mean, this whole thing of sugar coating, the mess that's going on in South Africa, the electricity shortages in South Africa, it's not going to fool many people. It's not. So we need to work on the basics. And I know that it's not the job of the SA Tourism or the Tourism Department to solve all of South Africa's problems. But this department must work with others. The government must be seen to be working together to say, guys, what are the priorities for South Africa right now? What are the priorities for South Africans right now? I don't believe at all that we have to spend almost R1 billion on a soccer team of wealthy people in the UK, where South Africa is very, very well known. There are lots of people there. We need to do other things. And if you want to spin South Africa's image, it's not by supporting a soccer team. I'm sorry.
Where would we want to start? I mean, I saw one tweet saying, I've always been visiting South Africa. I'm from the UK and I love South Africa. But of lately, you've got load shedding, you've got water challenges, and you've got crime in the country. So, no, I will not be visiting the country anytime soon.
Exactly, Mr. Andrea. I'm speaking to you from Geneva, Switzerland, where I am right now. It's hard. I work for SA Tourism. I love tourism. I love, as I said, what they're doing. But I am finding very hard to convince people to go to South Africa when they see the kind of things that are happening in South Africa. Electricity shortages, attacks on people. It's really hard. When I last visited South Africa, I was marked with guns and knives. They took my bike. So how do I come back and say, no, you can go? And what if somebody I told to go to South Africa comes to South Africa and something happens to them? It would sit on my conscience. So we need to show the world that we are tackling those basic things that are discouraging people from coming to South Africa. Putting fancy logos of South Africa on t-shirts or of a logo, also soccer team, it's not the right way to go. That's a lot of money to spend. They need to forget the arrogance and think about this differently. We're not saying we don't want them to do the work to promote South Africa. We want them to do it. But right now, spending that money on that particular soccer team or on that soccer team in the UK, I don't think it's the right way to go.
Are you saying that
they mustn't continue because they've started? It's nonsense that we're going to continue anyway because we've started. It's nonsense.
So you're saying that because of the timing issue. It could be a good branding exercise in better times, in times when we've got all these things under control. But maybe they could.
It's sugar coating right now. It's sugar coating in the market that already knows us anyway. That is part of which is frustrated by what's going on in South Africa. Government keeps going on about tackling the Chinese market, the Indian market, where I think South Africa is not as known as it should be. Maybe they should identify a team in China at some point and say, okay, let's work with these guys and create more awareness, get more Chinese people to come to South Africa, because that's what politically we want to go. But the UK right now in this pain, I don't blame South Africans who are saying, no, why would you spend that kind of money? You know,
the argument is, sorry, And I've been hearing it, it keeps coming up over and over again. You've got to spend money to make money. So we've got to spend this amount of money if we want to see some kind of contribution made into our economy.
No, you don't have to spend this kind of amount of money. You have to spend money. Let's not agree on what kind of money you've got to spend. And you've got to spend money smartly, especially in times of financial and economic difficulties, as we know the country is going through. Every South African, ask me how many South Africans are happy with the way things are going in South Africa. Few. Small businesses are being attacked, destroyed, livelihoods are being destroyed by this ongoing electricity crisis. Of course, we have to promote the country, but we have to do it smartly. I do not believe that doing it this particular way in partnership with giving almost R1 billion rents. I don't know if there are middlemen or middlewomen who are going to get 50% of the commission from this thing. They haven't revealed that part of it. Who's going to? No, I don't think it's the right way to go. I support SA Tourism. It should be supported. It should continue to exist. It should continue to do the way that, but not this particular deal.
Sorry, Moeng,
and not now.
Thanks so much. Thanks for coming on. Brand strategist there, Solly Moeng. Not this particular amount of money, not now, and not this particular idea.